Well, hello everyone, my name's Amy, this is the Opinion Woman, and welcome back to Crafty Reads, the series where I wrap up 5 books while I craft something. And today, Hugo, my dog, you are interrupting. Today we are starting with the elusive blank page. Oh my god, I finished my last piece, the last Crafty Reads, and I got a little kernel of inspiration, so that's what I'm going to go with. We are starting with making a circle. This I made for my pride photographs that I'm going to be taking, but I need to use this lid and I don't want to disturb it, so we're having a little pride flag here, even though none of the books that I read are gay. Are they? No. Very much heterosexual, but anyway, pride flag. So let's get into it. The first book that I finished was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was in a Taylor Jenkins Reid mood. My mom just recently got me Daisy Jones and the Six, which is very exciting, but that's linked to my sibling. But I was in a Taylor Jenkins Reid mood and I wanted to read one of the ones of hers that I haven't read before, and One True Loves was that book. It was the only one that was available on script, so that's what I went with, and it has a very interesting premise. So we're following our main character Emma, who fell in love who married her high school sweetheart, and not long after they were married, or it's exactly a year actually after they were married, he goes off on a trip, gets in a helicopter, and the helicopter disappears. Years go by and Emma moves on. So we start the book when when we're at dinner with her parents and Emma and her new fiance, when she gets a call to say that Jesse has been found. Jesse's the husband, sorry. Jesse's the husband, Sam is the new fiance. And obviously that just throws us into this uncertain situation of, well, that's like your absolute dream, you know? If someone you love has died and they come back, isn't that the dream? But in the meantime, she's grown and changed as a person, because trauma will do that to you. Trauma will change you as a person, and as you grow and find out more things about yourself, your personality changes, and she has to grapple with the love that she has for Jesse, the love that she has for Sam, this guy that is absolutely wonderful and has been in her life for a very, very long time, and try and figure out what the hell to do when confronted with this like absolutely impossible choice. And it's really fucking interesting, as you can tell from the premise. Taylor Jenkins Reid just has a knack of making characters. She has a way of writing nuance between characters, you know? Things aren't black and white. There's not a good guy and a bad guy. There are nuances to every situation, and everybody's feelings are valid and expressed in a very sympathetic way. She doesn't do like this guy is obviously the bad guy and this guy is obviously the good guy, you know, because that's not how life works. And while this isn't my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid, I definitely appreciate her writing style a lot, and I thought the way it ended was very well done. So yeah, I recommend this one if you're in the mood for a romance. I did get a little bit frustrated with the characters at some point. Some things were very compet and very hetero in a negative way. But I still enjoyed it nonetheless. This is what I'm doing, by the way. I'm doing this yellow circle, and then I want to blend out, I want to add some white crepe paper, which I'm going to do later, and then I want to watercolor the edges, but I don't think I'm going to get to that in this particular video, but that's the plan. Then I listened to another audiobook, and that was The Maid by Nita Prose. This book is such a hype thriller, and if you watch my videos at all, you would know that I don't do well with hype thrillers a lot of the time, but this one sounded like something different, so I decided to give it a go, and oh my word, I'm so glad I did. This is actually a thriller I can get behind, holy hell. I really, really liked how different this was and the different perspective that it took from. So basically we're following Molly, who is a maid at the Grand Regency Hotel. She's coded as being autistic, even though it doesn't say it on the page, but I think it's dealt with in quite a a sensitive manner. She's very much, I think her special interest is very much cleaning and returning the sweets to a state of perfection, which is something she says all the time. And people definitely see that she's something different, and certain people really take advantage of this, which is really sad to see. And she has absolutely no idea what's happening to her, but she's not written in a way that it's naive in making her seem stupid. It's just naive in a way that she doesn't get certain social cues in the way that a neurotypical would, and that's not her fault at all, and it's completely the fault of the people who are taking advantage of her. So we are introduced to her work situation, the way the people at work feel about her, and then a murder happens in the hotel, and Molly gets caught up in it, and we're going on this whirlwind ride of betrayal and new friends and catching someone in the act, and it ended off so perfectly, and Molly was such a strong main character that I enjoyed this from beginning to end. I thought it was so well done. So if you are sick of domestic thrillers and you kind of want something a little bit like slightly different, then really try The Maid. It is hype for a reason. And then we finally have a physical book, and that is Scala Greg by William Horwood. In Sod's Law, I really enjoyed this book, and I don't think it's in print anymore. I couldn't find it on Book Depository or anything like that. Stand up, you bastard. So I don't know if you can get hold of this book, but I really enjoyed this one. So Skallagrigg is about a girl called Esther Marquand, and we follow her throughout her life. She's got cerebral palsy, but the book is taken from her point of view most of the time. In the third person, but it's all about her learning to communicate, the way that technology helps her to communicate. She and shows her how much intelligence that she has inside, regardless of whether she can physically communicate that to people, because that actually at the end of the day means nothing. It's what is inside you and what you're capable of that counts. She uses a typewriter called a possum, which is something that disabled people have used for, this was set in, is it the 80s, something like that. So she gradually throughout the book gets more and more communication skills with people. She gets a little screen, she starts to be able to program, and she starts to create this game called Skallagrigg. And Skallagrigg isn't just a made-up name that Esther's come up with. Skallagrigg is actually a piece of folklore within the disabled community, and different disabled people that she meets in the different places that she stays, the different schools that she goes to. She gets told stories by other people about Arthur and the Skallagrigg, and it's almost like a really hopeful folklore kind of vibe, that stories that give the people hope, that there's something out there looking after them and looking for them, and if they need help, that all they need to do is call on the Skallagrigg like Arthur did. And Esther gets really involved in these stories and wants to learn more about them and wants to find the source of the Skallagrigg stories and who Arthur was and whether he was real. And we go down through this whole story, and it's all based around the people that she, like her family, the people who become her friends along the way, reuniting with her grandparents. And it's just a really beautifully told story about family and seeing disability in a different light. I just thought this book was so well done and so sad. It made me cry in multiple occasions, and it ended in a way that I did not expect in the slightest, but I just thought it was utterly beautiful, and I would really recommend it if you ever find it on your reading travels. Then, you guessed it, another audiobook. Skallagrigg was quite a chunky one, so I got through quite a lot of audiobooks this round. And that was Fair Warning by Michael Connolly. When it comes to thrillers, like I said, I struggle with domestic thrillers quite a lot. And Michael Connolly and John Connolly, no relation, have always been thrillers that I really got along with. There's like a little collection behind you. of different Michael Connelly books, and I saw this one that was more recent, and I decided to pick it up from Libby. And it's following Jack McAvoy, which is one of his protagonists, who is a journalist who works for this website called Fair Warning. And Fair Warning is a consumer watchdog website. So they do pieces about consumer safety and things like that. Wait, I need my crepe paper. This is my ephemera box, by the way. And thanks to my friend Jessica, I got a bunch of this paper that I am going to play with. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah, so Jack is just working at Fair Warning, and one day these policemen come to him and start asking him questions about this girl that he had a one-night stand with like a year before, because it turns out that she's been murdered. And in a very unusual way. Her neck had been broken so dramatically that she was basically decapitated from the inside, which is very intense. But Jack McAvoy, being who he is, he can't just leave well enough alone and let the police carry on with it. So he starts investigating. And we go down this rabbit hole of him finding out about this serial killer who is finding his victims through the most terrifying means that is completely plausible, because I'm not going to tell you what it is because it would spoil things, but I was like, nah, that can't be real. People can't manipulate a system like that, surely. And then right at the end of the book, we find out that all of the research was based on fact. So that made it a really tense thriller. It was quite fast-paced. There's action-packed pieces in it without it being like, you know, car chases and fight scenes and stuff. It's like got a lot of good tension in it. And it brings in one of our favorite old characters, Rachel Walling, who is an FBI agent that recurs in a lot of Mike Connelly's books. And I really like when she's involved in stuff. So yeah, it was really, really thrilling, really creepy. And Jack McAvoy is one of those like annoying fucking journalists that are just like, everything's for the story. But because of that, he finds out some really intense shit. And it keeps you nail biting from beginning to end. So I recommend that. That is the type of thriller I enjoy. And then finally, I read My University Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh. I already gave the book back to my sibling. I'm an idiot. I should have kept it until I shot this. But I read it physically. And this one is also another really hyped book, and it's totally hyped for a reason. And it was so mentally intense. My University Relaxation has an unnamed protagonist who decides to drug herself up so that she can rest for an entire year. She's very privileged. She lives on a inheritance, and she has a fancy apartment. So she basically manipulates a really terrible therapist into giving her loads of drugs so that she can, pretending to be an insomniac, so that she can just sleep for as long as possible. And we go into her world as experienced through this drug haze after that. I think that's the best way to put it. We get her spiraling before she quit her job. We get the 2000s art world, under the microscope. We get blackouts, we get coffee trips to the bodega, we get terrible friendships and horrible family relationships. We get memory lapses, and it's just an absolutely intense, wild ride that I don't think you should embark on if you are too sensitive to prescription drug use, because it is very intense, and she takes everything under the sun, and some of the things that she does while under the influence of these things can be quite overwhelming. So, it's quite a bummer. The reason she's doing this is obviously because she's incredibly mentally ill, and she's deciding not to do anything about it, she's deciding sleep is the solution. And it ends in a way that I really didn't expect, but it almost slightly feels hopeful at the end in a way that I really didn't expect. I really think I think it's a really great book to read as long as you are in the right perspective. This is a very much a privileged woman, privileged white woman, very beautiful, has all of the things that come with pretty privilege and all of that kind of stuff. But it's just so interesting seeing what the unconscious psyche does when the conscious mind is not quite present anymore, which is kind of sinister, to be honest. This book has a very, very sinister edge to it, but hell, I recommend it. And with that is the end of this Crafty Reads. I really enjoyed this. This was so much fun. This is what I've done. I made a yellow squircle and some paper, some tissue paper that I'm going to carry on with next time. I really like the way this is going. I really hope you enjoyed this Crafty Reads. Let me know what you thought down below and if you've read any of these books. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. If you enjoyed it, tickle our bell for notifications. And check you next time.